Hello, and welcome to the premiere episode of H&J Talk Sports, the podcast where we talk everything Pittsburgh Steelers, Penguins, WVU, and anything else we feel like talking about. I'm half your host, Joe Riggy, and now for the man that puts the H into H&J, Harry Baxter. Harry, how you doing?
Happy to be here. Glad we're finally doing this.
It's been a long time coming, and we won't waste time because there's been a lot going on this week, but we've been planning this. Especially with the Steelers. We have new Steeler news every day this week. I guess the big news is J.J. Watt's not going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler next year.
Would have been nice, but...
Would it have been nice? That was my leading question. I would
have loved to see it. You can't turn down a player of his caliber. I would have loved to see him.
J.J. Watt of 2014 or J.J. Watt of 2020? Because those are two different players.
If he's healthy, he's still one of the best.
He is good, but is Bud Dupree better?
No.
You don't think Bud Dupree now is better than J.J. Watt 2020?
No.
Well, we disagree on that one. But J.J. Watt's gone anyways, so does that mean that Bud Dupree's back now? Do they have room for him?
I think he's valuable. I think with Roethlisberger restructuring his contract, I think
a lot
they
of
freed up some space.
Cam Hayward restructured too?
Yeah.
But they still have
valuable.
Issues.
You saw when he got hurt, the decline that the defense took.
It did, and I was going to talk about that as well. I mean, for 2 years, we've seen the Steelers' defense start the season really good and then trail off around the end of the season.
Yeah.
So did it have to do with Bud Dupree going out and Devin Bush going out? Or is it just a repeat of the season before where they just get tired and they fall off the last 6 weeks of the season?
They took a step back with those injuries. Devin Bush is a big loss. His speed, and he's young. He needs those games.
They did good the few games right after he got hurt, but then the injuries started to pile up.
They were still good with Bud. I mean, you saw how terrible the offense was.
After he went down,
that offense because of the defense.
Yeah, it was different after Bud Dupree went down.
That's when
games started to drop.
The offense got exposed. The defense couldn't get people off the field. And, we saw. We went from 11-0
to losing the last. I mean, how does it
lost 4 out of 5?
In hindsight, looking at the season, I don't know how you go 11-0 and then look like one of the worst teams in football the next 5 weeks.
Injuries.
It got pretty bad, really bad. The offense looked actually pretty good other than the run game the first half of the season. And no one could catch a ball after week 11.
Yeah, people figured it out. People figured out the short passing game. It got exposed.
I mean, screen pass is really the only game they had.
That's last year.
Yeah.
We're thinking about next year.
So
We're
next
gonna fix it.
So what do they do next year to fix it? So that's what we're talking about next. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the draft is coming next month. I've seen talk this week they're going to go an offensive tackle. I guess is the consensus. A lot of people are talking running back, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. So what do they draft in the first round? Do they go OT? Do they go running back?
I mean, it depends on what's available. I think there's a lot of good QBs in this draft, and I think you could find a good replacement. If
that's another question too. People have been talking now. I don't know if this is wishful thinking of Justin Fields out of Ohio State going to Pittsburgh.
I don't think he drops that far.
Some people think if he doesn't drop, they might trade up to try and get him. I don't know. Bringing in Dwayne Haskins, I don't know if that's something they're planning. It doesn't seem like something they would plan this year.
It's not based on the past. They've only traded up once when they got Devin Bush.
Devin Bush.
I don't see
Rudolph's definitely not the guy.
Rudolph's not the guy. But if they could get somebody, Mac Jones, if somebody drops, Zach Wilson, even Justin Fields, I don't think he would drop. The guy from North Dakota State, Trey Lane, he could be a good pick. Any of those guys, I think you grab them. You get a backup for Roethlisberger, and you give him on a short leash this next year.
Well, it seems like the plan too might be to see if Dwayne Haskins is going to be the QB that they thought he would be.
I don't think you lose anything by that, giving him a chance.
You don't lose anything. It's just it points to maybe they wouldn't draft this year since they got him to test him out.
Well, I don't know. You're missing an opportunity. You don't have this many QBs coming in a draft very often.
That's true too.
And unless you're going to completely bomb, you got a bunch of young players on defense. I don't think
It doesn't
it's
seem
worth
like defense would be the way to go. I mean, they need a running back bad, really bad. I don't know if you sign a free agent or if one falls to you. I guess it depends on who's there when they pick.
Running backs are easier to find. You can find a good running back
That's
a
true.
lot easier than you can find a good quarterback.
I don't know. It's interesting because Steelers, I don't know. They draft interesting sometimes.
It'll be interesting. We'll see.
It's coming up. We're very close. Next month's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
With the NFL draft and then the NHL trade deadline, which is my favorite day of the year.
It also depends on who they re-sign. I mean, if you lose Bud Dupree,
That too, and I saw today that it doesn't look like Juju's staying.
yeah, well,
Which I don't know if that's a huge loss. He's good.
he hasn't performed as the number one.
QB. I think he's got too much pressure. I think he was a number two. He was a perfect number 2 QB.
I would sign him. I think you can get him on a discount.
If you could get him, I don't think he's going to take a discount. I think it was a lot of talk to endear himself to the Pittsburgh fans, but I think he wants his money.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll find out soon. Yeah, so we'll talk more Steelers soon because we got the draft coming up. But let's move on to some Penguins, which is my favorite subject. My buddy Harry, less of a hockey guy, but he's learning.
I'm more of a casual. I was an old when they got to the playoffs. I would start following pretty closely, watch all the games.
He's one of those guys. I watch like 100 hockey games a year, all the Penguin games, some other games, AHL games. Like I said, the trade deadline days, it's like Christmas. I watch it all day. I'm on Twitter refreshing all night. So I'm excited for that. But speaking of the Penguins, I don't know if you know this, but one of the biggest pieces of news in hockey in the early season was Pittsburgh's GM, Jim Rutherford, quit out of the blue like 3 weeks into the season. Didn't say why. Rumors came out that it's probably because he was disgruntled because they wouldn't let him trade Chris Letang or maybe some other players he wanted to trade. So that kind of shocked people, but then they hired another shocking thing was instead of finding one GM, they basically found two, which was Ron Hextall, former Philadelphia Flyer GM, and Brian Burke, who's one of the oldest, maybe one of the most famous faces in hockey.
Yeah.
So at first people were kind of shocked, maybe didn't think it was a good idea, but I think people have settled into it.
How long has he been the GM? How long was Rutherford the GM for?
2015, I think.
2015.
Because they won the cup in 16. He came 1 year before they bombed. And then they won in 16, 17. People don't think he should get to, the rumor is, and it sounds like he's disgruntled because he already is talking about how he wants to be a GM again, like 4 weeks after he quit. So it was obviously a problem he had in Pittsburgh with the management.
Yeah, maybe he knows something we don't know.
Or he knows something we don't know.
He sees some writing in the wall. Players getting a little older.
That's the talk. If he's not allowed to trade the core players like Malkin and Letang, he probably feels like his hands are tied because if they're getting older and he can't move them for younger players or draft picks, what's he going to do?
Yeah. I mean, those guys have been there forever.
It's kind of a tricky situation because Pittsburgh still thinks they can win now, which maybe they can, but you have no pieces.
Closing.
Sure. It's closing very short. Maybe they got a year or two left, and there's nothing. I think that's why they brought the guys in though. Ron Hextall in Philadelphia, he basically built a really good team out of just drafting. Brian Burke's more of an old school guy, so maybe the combination will help. We'll see. They've looked better lately. They won 2 out of the 3 games against Philadelphia this week, which was good. Mm-hmm. It's always good to get rid of Philly. 2 out of 3. They did win 1 in overtime, so they still gave Philly 3 points out of it, which isn't good.
No.
Because of the way they're doing this year and playing all in division games because of COVID. Can't give teams those overtime points. So one thing though got me thinking, which is weird. I was looking at how often different leagues switch GMs, because I feel like hockey switches GMs a lot faster than other leagues.
Mhm.
In hockey, most GMs last around average 5 years.
I
How
think it
long do you think an
depends.
NFL GM lasts?
It depends on the coach. I think a lot of them, they come in, they like to pick their coach.
If you had to
And
guess, what would you say the average GM life was in the NFL?
it depends on the team.
Oh, you're not fun. You gotta
It
guess.
depends on the team. I mean, you have teams that they come in, they're gone 3, 4, 5 years. You have some teams they'll stay for 10, 15 years.
I
Baltimore's
didn't
GM was
average it
there
out,
for
but I will say half the teams have a GM that's been the GM longer than or before 2014. So over 6, 7 years. And then you got Jerry Jones since 89, which you don't have anybody that's been the GM that long in hockey. Of course, he owns the team. He's not going to fire himself. Cincinnati, 91. Belichick, 2000. Kevin Colbert, 2000. That's pretty long. And I looked at baseball too, just to get a comparison. Baseball is like 50 seasons, 30
Yeah.
seasons, 20 seasons. It's
Yeah,
weird
it's
in
nice to have
hockey.
that leeway.
Yeah. And
I think
hockey's like
there's something
five,
to
six
say.
seasons and you're out if you're not
Yeah.
doing something. There's a few exceptions, but they don't last that long. So yeah, we'll see again next month, April. We got the draft, NFL, NHL trade deadline. So exciting month. We'll have a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get back into some football. WVU.
WVU. What can we say?
What are they going to look like this season?
I think
Third year into the Neal Brown era.
this is a defining season.
It is.
They got to beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat.
You'd think. I mean, last year was weird because of COVID. But 3 years in,
Last year they did all right. Last year
they
was
did better than I thought.
a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
As long as you're progressing.
Can they do it with their QBs?
No.
I don't think so either. So do they get a QB? It doesn't sound like they're looking.
WVU, they just have a history of people just falling in their lap. Somebody that's not expected to be good ends up being good.
Well, I hope so. And that's why I was looking. These could be long shots. But on the WV watch recruit list, QB Gavin Winsat, who is a top QB prospect. WV's on his short list of like 10 to 15 teams. He'll probably not go there. Notre Dame is on his list too. If I had to pick, I would go to West Virginia. No. Notre Dame. But maybe he wants to be the guy. I don't know if he'll go be the guy in Notre Dame. Rutgers, Cincinnati, Louisville, all looking at him. Also QB Destin Wade, who's highly ranked. Louisville, Ole Miss. A lot of the same teams. West Virginia on his short list.
We'll see. I don't think Jarrett's the guy to get him over the top.
I definitely don't.
Maybe Garrett Green, he can be the guy. It's yet to be seen. You got to see him in the game.
Yeah.
I don't think practice. You need the reps, you need the experience, but you gotta be in the game, deal with the pressure, deal with the lights.
So do you think Neal Brown's the guy though? Is he the guy to get it done?
I'll tell you after the season.
After this season?
I'm skeptical.
I was excited about him when they signed him. Everything he said sounded really good. His resume looked good.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he started with nothing.
I like how he was talking about recruiting.
He's recruited well. They've had really good class, but they got to win. They got to show it on the field.
I think you're right.
Is the year.
This is the defining year. So this year, if they do what they did last year, they got to take some step forward, whether it's having a better record by maybe 2 games, whether it's beating a team they're not supposed to beat. That would be a pretty good step.
Yeah.
for Neal Brown. Also, other guys looking at WV apparently. Jacoby Spells, who's like a 4-star ranked. I think he's a free safety. That would be good to fall in West Virginia's lap. Apparently, he's looking at Miami, Syracuse, and West Virginia are his 3 top teams.
We'll see.
I think a lot of people are pointing towards Miami as the favorite, but could that be the guy that accidentally falls to them?
That'd be nice. The defense is all right. The
Defense was
well.
good. We're losing Stills.
We are losing Stills.
Which is the guy. That's why our defense is pretty much good, because he's rushing the quarterback, him and his brother, every down.
Is his brother staying?
I haven't seen anything on his brother.
I believe he's staying.
He might be staying.
Which would be great.
Yeah, they'll definitely need something up front. But we'll see. That'll be an interesting one. Man, we're buzzing through this show.
We got Virginia Tech at home. That'll be a good test, early test. Let's see what happens.
It'd be nice if we could beat a Texas team this year.
Yeah. Texas, who knows what's going to happen? They got a new coach. They're always talented. They always underperform, though. So we're going to see.
So we want to beat the underperforming team this year.
I think you got to beat Texas. Texas or Oklahoma. You got to get one of these teams. You got to get a win over one of these teams.
We've been waiting for Oklahoma a long time.
Definitely Oklahoma is more valuable.
They are more valuable. I don't think that's happening this year.
Oklahoma's going to be very good. You never know.
I hope within 3 years we're back at competing with Oklahoma level. 2 years. I said 3. 2 years. Let's make it 2.
I don't know if we've ever competed at Oklahoma level yet.
Will Greer's last year, he came close.
He came close
until he got really badly outplayed at the end of that game.
He played well. The defense was non-existent.
Started good. The defense, that was just a blowout. Defense fell apart in the second half of that game.
We have one or the other. We have a good defense.
Yeah.
No offense, or a good offense and no defense.
But that was
most of the time the latter.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it goes.
Geno Smith and Tavon Austin, they were a great offense. Yeah. No defense.
No defense at all.
Got blown out of the water.
Yeah. Those were the good old days, though, honestly.
I don't know. Program's kind of been in a decline for a little while.
Well, I was excited about Neal Brown. I hope he can draft. Hope he can get some players there. They got to win games to get people excited, though. If you never beat Oklahoma, is anyone going to want to come there that's going to make your team better?
It's tough. It's a lot of travel.
Tough position. They're slightly above average almost every year, which is a bad position to be in, I think.
They're definitely not. They're not improving. Not in the way fans expect. This is the year. Everybody. Neal Brown's 3rd year is the year that his teams have shown improvement in the past.
We'll see what the Neal Brown era is about.
But we'll find out early.
Find out
real early.
Yeah.
I think we play Oklahoma in September. I think we got Virginia Tech, Maryland. I mean,
that's early. It could be written in September.
We're gonna find out. We'll see what the interest is after the first half of the season.
Yeah.
You'll have a good answer.
Hey, I'm ready to be interested because I was pumped Neal Brown's first year. I don't want to say expected. I was hoping that he would shock everyone at his first season and come in and just. Last year, I was excited just because we didn't have sports for like a year because of COVID. So we'll see. I want to be excited again. I haven't been excited in a couple of seasons.
He exceeded my expectations the first year. I did not have
I remember you were really
high bar.
I didn't think they would do anything his first year.
Second year, I think he was right on with what I expected. No surprise. This is the year I want to see a breakthrough.
All right. So before we get into the end of the show, I got a game I want to play real quick.
Okay.
It's called Yes, No.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you some questions, and without thinking, you got to say yes or no.
Without thinking?
Without thinking. First thing that comes into your head. You can think a little bit, but not too much thinking of the right answer. I just
All
want
right,
to say
let's do it.
what comes
Hit
to
me
your
with
head.
it.
All right. First question. Is Juju Smith-Schuster a Steeler next year?
Yes.
Yes. Does Ben Roethlisberger finish the whole season next year as the starting QB?
No.
No. Do the Steelers do better than a first and out in the playoffs next year?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Do the Penguins do better than a 1 and out in the playoffs this year?
No.
No. Ooh. Some hate. Is Bud Dupree a Steeler next year?
No.
You think
Unfortunately.
you don't think he is. All right. Well, we're talking WVU. Does WVU beat a Texas team this year?
Yes.
Does WVU have a winning record this year?
Yes.
Does WVU win a bowl game this year?
Yes.
You thought hard about that one.
I thought more than I should have, but
More
yes.
than you should have about that one. All right. That was yes, no. Good job. I like most of your answers.
I'm going to add on that I think they beat 2 out of 3 Texas teams.
Oh,
Or they get 2 wins.
this is on
Texas.
video now, so I'm going to remind you.
Well, you got Texas Tech, you got TCU, Baylor, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can beat Texas Tech. I think they
Texas Tech is the most likely.
They beat Baylor, TCU, and
maybe TCU.
Maybe Texas. They lose 1 out of the 4. They always lose 1 out of the 4, at least.
Yeah.
They're going to lose to somebody.
I want to see Texas. Out of all those, I would love
I'm
to
not
see.
expecting a conference championship or anything.
No.
I'd like to see top half of the conference finish, at least.
Do they finish top 3?
I could see.
You got Oklahoma.
I think at the highest, I would realistically give them, I'd say between 3 and 5.
3 and 5. It's interesting. They started this season. It looked like they were going to finish top 4, and then they kind of fell apart late.
When you play these tough games early on, if you lose to Virginia Tech, you lose to Oklahoma to start off your season, it's hard to get. It's going to be hard to get up for the whole season.
True that.
You get down spiral fast.
Yeah.
Beat Virginia Tech. You go into the Oklahoma game. You play tough. It's a close game. You lose. Maybe somehow you pull off an upset. Then who knows?
Get that early confidence boost.
Yeah, we didn't.
If it goes the other way, if you drop those 2 games,
we didn't get to play them last year.
Get out of that rut, and then we find out what Neal Brown's really about. If he can get his team out of the rut, or if he can keep the motivation going, whatever happens with those games.
And this is the year we have to go to Oklahoma, which I think it'll be really tough.
Yeah,
it's tough enough to beat them, but
I don't think you got to beat them. I think you got to make a game out of it. You don't want to go to Oklahoma and get embarrassed.
It's got to be competitive.
Yeah, you got to do something. Keep it close.
When's the last time we've been competitive with them? Will Greer. That's the last time.
When we had no defense. That's a lot more West Virginia talk than I expected today.
Yeah. Well,
I thought we spent a lot of Steelers. We've been missing some Mountaineers, I think.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Football season kind of ended early.
Quickly. Well, before we end it, let's quickly go over UFC 258 last night, because that was
259.
That was 258. Or no, 259. Yeah, it was. My computer's pulled up on the wrong one. My bad. UFC 259 on paper was a stacked card. Did you think it was as good as?
No, I don't think it lived up to the hype.
A lot of those fights were pretty one-sided.
The best fight, I think, ended prematurely with the disqualification.
Did you think that was the best fight? I thought it was funny in Sterling's post-game interview or post-fight interview, where he said, "Man, it was one of the best bantamweight fights of all time." Blah, blah. And I was thinking, was it? Because you were getting beat pretty bad.
It was 2-1. The fourth was going to Jan.
I don't know.
But it was Sterling was he was
doing good, but I never felt like Yan wasn't in control in that fight at any point. I felt like the fight was going how Yan wanted, and Sterling was having parts because that's just how he was being played.
It's a shame it ended like that. I thought it was a good fight.
Do you think Sterling dove?
No.
I think he dove.
No,
I think a lot of people think he dove. It was vicious and it was illegal and it looked horrible. But his reaction and the way he flopped in his interview seemed awfully acty to me.
And you take a knee dead on in the temple.
It looked bad.
You weren't standing up.
His reaction to it looked pretty fake, though. His like I've seen a lot of players get knocked out. Seemed like some forced eye rolls to me. But that's just me. I don't know.
Should you be able to win the championship off of DQ?
But Joe Rogan doesn't think so. It's tough because technically you get disqualified. I don't feel like he's a champion because again, I thought he was getting beat pretty thoroughly, honestly.
They got to run it back.
They definitely got to fight again.
And Aljo will adjust.
Yeah.
Jan's tough. He stays, he waits. He weathered the storm and then he started controlling the fight.
Yeah, I think the only time Sterling looked good was that's how Jan was playing the fight. I felt like he was in control the whole time. Yeah. He was just waiting. The first fight, Santos versus Rachik, blowout. Yeah. Islam, blowout.
That was a good fight. It was one-sided, but it was a good fight.
He's too good to be fighting these scrubs. He needs to be fighting top 5 people.
No, he hadn't fought in a long time.
He hasn't, but he's good. Every time he's too good.
I enjoyed the fight. I want to see him fight somebody top 5, top 7.
Top 5. He's too good. He's really good. But that fight was blowout. The next one was the disqualified Nunes blowout. Lasted 20 seconds.
Man, you could see Megan's face.
When I know. Her eyes. That first hit, she was like, "Oh shit!"
She realized she was in deep trouble.
I was laughing too because the whole build up to that fight, they're just. I mean, I know they have to make it interesting. It's their job to make you excited. Like Megan Anderson, she's big, she's strong. She says no one's ever felt my punch. Amanda Nunes never felt anyone to punch. You know, I have many people fight Amanda Nunes, and I hear that almost every interview. Amanda Nunes have never felt anyone that punches like me. I've heard at least 4 of her opponents say that. I don't think they have any idea what they're getting into.
No.
She's on a different level.
Yeah, she's in a league of her own.
That first hit, Anderson, her eyes went wide, and she just looked like...
She wanted out of there.
What do I do now? Her legs went flailing around like a giraffe.
She wanted out of there. She was done.
Amanda Nunes didn't even have to break a sweat.
Nunes gave her mercy by
Can anyone fight her? Can Shevchenko? That sounds like the fight they want to make.
Can Shevchenko can compete with her.
I mean, in her...
That's it.
She's kind of the Amanda Nunes of her division. There's no one that can fight her.
Well, they fought twice, and they were both competitive fights.
And I think that's the only person right now. There's no one else in the division that could give her anything. I mean, it's not even a little bit close.
Well, supposedly Juliana Pena is gonna fight Nunes next, maybe with a quick turnaround.
Quick fight.
Nunes, yeah, she's already in shape. Just quick turn, make some quick money.
Yeah,
it'll be over.
And the main event, Yan versus Israel. I thought Israel would win. I don't know what you thought.
I thought it was a toss-up. I think if I had to pick before the fight, I would have picked Israel, but I'm not surprised at all. The scoring was surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was 3 rounds to 2 by Jan, but
yeah, a little lopsided. I mean, that kind of it really puts into perspective how much size really matters.
Yeah.
I know Izzy was spitting before the fight, skill and speed. He couldn't do anything. When Jan laid on him, couldn't move.
Well, Jan, the size played a huge factor. Jan could eat the punches and the kicks from Israel better.
Not only that, I mean, he was buying a lot of Izzy's feints, but I felt like he was so big that even when he bought the feints, there's no opening that opened up. Yeah. I think that caused a lot of problems. Izzy was looking for an opening that never came. And normally when he would punch guys and, stun them, it would open up something. It just never opened up. Like he was feigning, dancing, throwing jabs, kicks. He just never fell out of his stance. Nothing ever opened up for Izzy. And
He
then
could get there.
He got laid on.
Yeah. I mean, he couldn't get up. There's too much weight.
Not at all.
He just
underwhelming overall, I think.
We'll see what's next. Well, the next pay-per-view card is Ngannou and Miocic.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good card too.
That's a good one.
We don't have to wait as long, 3 weeks.
O'Malley, I haven't seen him fight in a little while.
O'Malley,
Tyrone
Volkanovski, Ortega.
Mm-hmm.
Good card.
Not a bad card. Well, that's our first episode, Ari. How'd it go?
It went well. We got a lot more to go.
Got a lot more to go. A lot more to talk about. And again, draft coming up, trade deadlines coming up. A lot of stuff. We talked a lot of West Virginia today. I can't see my shirt.
Yeah.
Probably more Steelers in the next coming weeks. If somehow you found our podcast and you watched all the way through, I'm glad you watched. Remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always know when we upload stuff. We have new episodes every single Monday. Videos all week. Turn your goddamn phone off. Can you be professional? It's this guy. Videos all week. You can also go and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to get some updates and stick with us and talk to us. And that's H&J. Hold on, I gotta figure out what it is. H&J Talk Sports on Instagram or Twitter. Follow us,
see you soon.
Comment, ask us questions, and have a good Monday. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.